Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of PwC's Corporate Venturing podcast. My name is still Elise Carton, Senior Manager at PwC Belgium Venture Deals Practice, and thus responsible for all our offerings in the venture deal space. It's a bit of an atypical episode today because we don't have an entrepreneur or a corporate here to talk about their corporate venturing initiatives or setups, but we have someone that can give us tons of knowledge and insights, but also statistics. Welcome, Robin de Kok of Antwerp Management School. Maybe a short introduction about yourself.
Hi, Elise. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Robin. I'm a professor in innovation entrepreneurship at the Antwerp Management School. So I conduct research in technology, corporate, and social entrepreneurship, and I'm teaching in various programs for full-time masters, executives. But I'm also the academic director of the Master in Innovation and Entrepreneurship, which to me is one of the coolest programs in the world. But I'm biased. I'm the academic director. So this master already produced 120 startups during the past 15 years. And besides the AMS, I'm also in the valorization board of Vito. And I'm also a guest professor at the ETH Zurich.
Amazing. Very cool job. Also sounds like you do a lot of things. So thanks for making the time to join us. We have been working together for a while. PwC is a knowledge partner of the very important research project, The Art of Corporate Venturing. We have been a knowledge partner since a few years now, but maybe you can explain to our listeners what that project is all about.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Elise, but I think we started in 2018, if I remember it correctly. And based a bit on both parties' observations in the field that on the one hand, corporate venturing is really taking off, but on the other hand, many organizations find it challenging, and we received many questions of companies on this topic. And in this project, we want to identify these key challenges and develop new academically backed knowledge to solve these challenges and support organizations in their corporate venturing adventures. We, for instance, installed a corporate venturing barometer, and we wrote 4 reports that you can also download on the website of AMS and PwC.
Yeah. I think actually the first podcast of this corporate venturing series was with your colleague, Professor Vincent Molly, to talk about our collaboration. So it's still going strong since that first podcast in 2018, 2019. Back then, we defined a bit what corporate venturing means. And I think to set the scene, it's important to point out that we look at corporate venturing in the broader sense of the word. So any type of collaboration between startups and corporates. The first white paper you published within the context of this project, 20 forms were identified in which corporates and startups can collaborate, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. We saw that the field of corporate venturing evolved a lot the last decade with a lot of new forms of corporate venturing that were popping up, and we wanted to capture these. So it's a much broader definition of corporate venturing than simply investing and acquiring startups, but we also include corporate accelerators, corporate spin-ins, and many other more recent types of corporate venturing.
Yeah, and it's also something that we very much applaud. I think a few years back, our clients saw corporate venturing as two extremes, either just going to network events or opening up office space, not getting much innovation return out of those very low impact, low entry barrier, getting to know corporate venturing setups. While on the other aspect, they were looking at full acquisitions of startups, unfortunately, often killing very rapidly what they wanted to attract. But everything in between that spectrum is gaining a lot of traction. So that's a very exciting evolution to see.
Yep.
So yeah, we were discussing together a few months ago what the research of this year within the art of corporate venturing should focus on, and we were both triggered by statistics published by the EU Monitor that actually startups prefer to collaborate with SMEs rather than to collaborate with larger corporations. which is interesting because SMEs don't often think of actively pursuing corporate venturing. They usually don't have a plan or a team in place to go on the hunt for interesting startups, a clear view on how they want to collaborate. So we both felt that this was something that was in need of a bit more research. So yeah, let's start with the beginning there. The fact that startups prefer to collaborate with SMEs over large corporates. What do you think that could be the drivers for this?
Well, first of all, if you look at the numbers, we see that 41% of the startups indicate that SMEs or indicate SMEs as the most important partners, while 29% indicate large firms. So that's a pretty big difference. And this could be linked to the entrepreneurial spirit that is still there in a SME, the connection with the founder, the faster decision making. So SMEs might be also a lot more approachable. And these are typical challenges that we also see in corporate venturing initiatives between startups and corporates. And our research actually shows that they play less when it comes to startup SME collaborations.
Okay, so culture and entrepreneurial spirit are definitely something that stands out there. Makes sense if you think of it. Is there also a difference in what startups aim to achieve when working with SMEs compared to working with corporates?
Well, actually, we see that we looked at the top three, and the top two reasons, two main drivers for startups to collaborate with SMEs versus larger enterprises are actually the same. These are customer market access and product service development. However, when we look at a bit further in the top three, we see that the third driver differs a bit. While startups want to work with larger enterprises because of their reputation and image transfer, they like to work with SMEs more because of their open innovation and maybe working together on different new ideas. And that's probably because SMEs and startups, they might trust each other a bit more. And that's really important if you want to do open innovation, of course. There needs to be a minimal amount of trust there.
Yeah, so it seems that the collaborative aspect, and probably also linked to the points mentioned before, the entrepreneurial spirit, faster decision making, less governance, that is something that startups look for to really collaborate, co-develop, think together with SMEs rather than with larger corporates. Yeah, very interesting. So we know now that startups prefer to work with SMEs rather than larger corporates. Let's switch it around. When corporates and SMEs look at working together with startups, do you feel that or did you find that there's a difference in the motives for both to set up collaborations with younger companies?
Well, we see that the number one reason for SMEs, but also for corporates to work together with startups is exploring new products and markets. While the second reason for corporates is more access to new technologies, while SMEs are more looking into stimulating the brand awareness. So we see for the first reason, we see that it's the same. For the more second and third reasons, we see differences between both the SMEs on the one side and the large enterprises on the other side.
Yeah, quite interesting because when we look back at the drivers for startups to collaborate with SMEs and at least large enterprises, they mentioned customer market access as the first one. Goes quite nicely with the driver on the corporate SME side being access to new products and markets. So good to see that there's some overlap there in ambitions.
Yeah.
So we're talking a lot about what they can mean for each other and the ambitions that SMEs and larger corporates have in terms of innovation. But what about achieving financial goals? Do they differ there in what they want to achieve?
Well, reaching financial goals with corporate venturing is always a bit challenging. Well, we see that corporates and SMEs understand that they are pursuing corporate venturing more for achieving strategic goals, and wins rather than financial. Only 11% of the SMEs and 16% of the large corporates are indicating that financial outcomes could be a driver for collaborating with startups. But it simply takes time also. And there are a lot of benefits of working together with startups that go beyond the financial outcomes.
Yeah, great. Let's maybe talk a bit about the challenges. So larger corporates, SMEs, of course, they differ quite a lot. And I would assume that when they start working with startups, the hurdles along the road are quite different for them as well. Is my gut feeling confirmed by your research, or does it tell something completely different?
Yes, more or less. Yeah, there are actually important differences. First of all, the differences in decision-making style, as we talked already a bit about that, is less of a challenge for SMEs because they have a more centralized decision-making in which the founders still play a very important role. Um, Secondly, if you look at cultural differences, they are significantly less between SMEs and startups compared to corporates and startups. More often, SMEs still have the entrepreneurial spirit, also the typical entrepreneurship working culture. At least it doesn't differ too much from the startup culture. And SMEs also generally, and I don't want to get too much in the academic literature here, Elise, but they also suffer a bit from what they call the tribe syndrome, which means that they tend to work with firms that have a lot of similarities as if they were from the same tribe. And that's something very typical that we see in the SME literature. What is interesting is that although SMEs have a lot of similarities with startups, similar decision making, less cultural differences, they seem to have troubles in finding startups and finding each other, and struggle a lot more to get access to the right startups. And this might be due to the lack of dedicated resources or people to source and meet startups. So on the one hand, startups and SMEs, they have a lot of similarities, which should be very good to work together. On the other hand, we see that they do not always find each other. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, and that could indeed relate to what we started off with, being surprised that startups prefer to work with SMEs because we feel like a lot of SMEs don't have a dedicated team going out
Yeah.
to look for interesting startups, but also taking them on throughout the journey of working together with the SMEs. So yeah, very interesting. So you say that SMEs have trouble finding those startups to work with. Where do they look? How are they trying to find them? What are the places they're looking at? And does that differ a lot compared to larger corporations?
Well, we actually see that both SMEs and large enterprises most often connect with startups through network events. So especially for those who are organizing network events post-COVID, this is still very relevant to do so. When relying more on intermediaries, we see that large enterprises especially benefit a lot from consulting firms, incubators, VCs, universities, while we see that SMEs do not or are not really connected always with all these parties and do not really benefit from these parties. So SMEs are less on the radar of consultancy firms, of incubators, VCs, and so on. So that makes it more difficult to make connection with startups.
Yeah, and that was a clear signal also for us to look deeper into what PwC can do to bridge that gap. So for us, it's important to reach out to SMEs, facilitate their inclusion in the broader ecosystem, make sure that they find their way, set up a strategy. So we will for sure get to work with those insights and dive deeper into how we can help SMEs to make that work. And of course, if there's any SMEs listening to this podcast, they can always reach out to us if they want to learn more about how we would be able to support our corporate venturing readiness scan is a very good place to start, just to map a bit how easy it is for a startup to find you and to start a pilot or to start a collaboration. And it's a great starting point to get the conversation going. So, but aside from supporting companies in their early steps of corporate venturing throughout this joint project, we also identified a need for more established corporate venturing initiatives to learn from each other. There's a lot of networking for M&A professionals or sector organizations or entrepreneurial organizations. But we saw that there was not really a place where corporate venturing professionals could learn from each other. And I think, Robin, we talked a lot about that, about our ambition to fill up that need. And that is why we set up the Corporate Venturing Circle together.
Yeah, yeah, that is the next exciting outcome of our collaboration, I think, where we want to bring together corporate venturing professionals from different companies and different industries with the purpose to inspire each other and learn from each other. And these are firms that already have experience, some of them a lot of experience with corporate venturing, but want to discuss their challenges and best practices with each other. And this is a pretty, like you said, pretty unique networking concept. Every month we focus on a specific challenge and invite experts to the network. And also for us, for EMS, Antwerp Management School, it is ideal to know better what the challenges are and do research on these to develop new knowledge and solutions. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I was definitely inspired after the first two sessions we had, both from an advisor point of view, but also, of course, from a corporate point of view, because PwC is not only an advisor, but also a corporate. So we should practice what we preach, which is what we are doing, and consider corporate venturing in many forms ourselves. So also great to see how other companies tackle that and how we can set up a learning opportunity in all directions. So yeah, I think we covered a lots of information, interesting insights. We're very excited of what the future will bring for our collaboration as we've gone a long way. People that want to hear more about this or want to read more into this can always check out the Antwerp Management School website for the white papers in the context of the study, the Art of Corporate Venturing website. But of course, feel free to reach out to PwC as well. We're happy to share any information related to this research project, talk about it, meet about it, anything. So yeah, thanks a lot for joining us today, Robin.
You're welcome, Elise. Thank you for the invitation.
Bye.
Bye.